Greetings and welcome to my comprehensive review of the Tier 9 weapons for Ghost Recon's Phantoms. Now, I'm just going to be in the firing range explaining various details. I'd like to post some real material, but I play on a shitty laptop and my FPS will drop to 12 if I try that. So yesterday it was announced that there are going to be the Tier 9 weapons. I've purchased them all. I purchased them all so you don't have to, because in some of the cases you really shouldn't be purchasing them. I think this was before I start, a dick move on the part of Ubisoft. We had a sheet of images of the next weapons, the Tier 9 weapons, and quite frankly, they weren't these. They're not even remodeled. These are just the old beta Tier 2 weapons. I never played the beta, but anyway, that have been remodeled and buffed a bit. That said, I think they're a little bit unworthy of being Tier 9 weapons. There's nothing inherently superior about these weapons to the Tier 8 weapons, and particularly the Tier 8 SD versions, which arguably in many cases are superior. But I'm going to start across the board. I'll start with Assault. I've been playing Assault these days more often than any other class, so yeah. Let's start with the Asphalt H, and I'll be comparing that to the M28. This is a very good assault rifle, but it's not earth-shatteringly amazing. It's not what I would think of as a Tier 9 assault rifle. Here you see the stats, and it's basically kind of a slightly improved old school F2000 before they nerfed it with a patch. The accuracy is remarkable, obviously, because it has an integral silencer. It's very, very accurate. It's kind of laserish, almost like a laser gun. Control's quite good too. Clip size is, well, it leaves a lot to be desired. 40 for this rate of fire. I like to swing with a long barrel, so it's 840. You can push up the fire rate, as you can see, up to 1,000. I'm not really into that because I hate recoil and I prefer having more control and accuracy. Hence the bipod as well. And the ammo pool is pretty nice. 160 ammo pool. That's nothing to sneeze at. And I usually use the Phantom on everything. That's my personal preference. I could explain why, but I don't think you're that interested in that. Just for the different options and the fact that my laptop screen is very small. It's hard to see, and the crosshairs provide a nice aiming reticule for me. Anyway, so let's have a look at the actual performance in the firing range. As you can see, it's fast. I mean, it has a fast rate of fire, 841. But the damage per bullet is, at 41, pretty mediocre. I would say it's not really that great. I think the strength of this weapon is the rate of fire, obviously, but also the accuracy. I mean, you can just, it's a bit like a laser gun, and it can really handle pretty much any range. But the inherent problem of this is simply the lack of damage per bullet, because at super long ranges, and this is my gripe with this weapon. It's not a gripe, but you lose. I mean, even though it's super accurate with a 91 accuracy, you're gonna lose a lot of damage because it doesn't have to do a lot of damage to begin with. I personally, my recommendation, I played, of all the weapons that came out today, I played the most with the Asphalt H, as they like the H. And this is a very good assault rifle. I don't think it's worthy of Tier 9. I would suggest personally a buff in terms of damage per bullet. I would say with the medium barrel damage is 39. I think it should be buffed to 42, so it would do about 44 damage with a long barrel. That's my personal opinion. I'm sure the devs disagree with me, but this is not really a Tier 9 weapon because. And also, I'm going to talk about now about the differences, the hidden stats. I mean, you just saw a crit hit. And it doesn't have a great crit hit modifier, comparatively speaking. 110, no? This is a weapon I think that's very good in CQC, exceptionally good in CQC, very good at short ranges and very good at medium ranges. If you start going over 60 meters, though, I probably would stop using it. I don't, I've counter sniped a lot of snipers with the M28, and I'll talk about them in a second. But because of the lack of damage per bullet, I mean, DPS in this case, I mean, look at, you're doing an 85 headshot crit. That is nothing at range. And that, if you're engaged in a long distance situation with a sniper, and it happens sometimes as an assault. I mean, you got guys hard scoping you, whatever, and you need to counter them. This is not the assault rifle I would use to do it. Even though, yeah, you can take them out at range. I mean, it's still, even in 130, it's accurate as hell. It's just that you're gonna 78 headshot. That's not that impressive. So this is a very good assault rifle. I think it needs a buff, a damage buff, maybe even buffing the long barrel damage to 45 to make it really competitive at as a tier 9 weapon. As you know, Ubisoft hates the assault class, and the assault rifles are basically always inferior to light machine guns. I'll get into light machine guns in a bit. Those are my thoughts on the ASFAL. Good. I like it a lot for short and medium range. I wouldn't use it for long range encounters, and that's going to depend on the map, obviously. If you plan on either doing a lot of CQC, or you're on a map such as Tomsk, or alternatively you need to switch up weapons. Let's say you're going from intro to metro to taking a B on the top of metro, where you have to deal with a lot of snipers out of range. My recommendation is to stop using this weapon then and switch to this beauty. I'm a huge fan of the M28. I've used it for a couple of weeks, and I've grown very fond of it. Now, of course, the major difference between the M28 and the ASFAL H is clear. I mean, it's the rate of fire and the damage per bullet. This has a 550 rate of fire. Like I said, I always swing with a long barrel, except in specific situations. But look at the headshot damage, and this is without Magnum. I think it was a 110 headshot before with the ASFAL. Let's see if we can generate a crit. Not quite. We can wait a little bit. Or even try and generate a crit at this range. You'll get a lot more damage, I think. The gods are unkind to me. There we go. So that's without Magnum at that range. So at over 60 meters range, I was doing more with a crit headshot. And that 138 would have KO'd any sniper, any Recon, because the max health you can have as a Recon is 125, as you know. And if you add Magnum, you know how much that amplifies it. This is, I think, the chosen weapon for the time being for the assault for medium to long range encounters. It's not. I mean, I've used it in CQC. It's not bad because the damage per bullet is quite impressive. I think with a 58 damage. But the rate of fire leaves something to be desired, and that's why I suggest using this weapon as a personal opinion. I think I'm a good player. My rank always changes because I DC a lot. Technically, I'm a General 4, and I DC'd 3 times today, so I'm back down to 2. But this is a great long-range weapon. Slap some Magnum ammo in it, and you are going to, even at these ranges, 72 for the head, and if you can get some, and that's 2 headshots without the crit. 156 at that range. Anything, including some assaults, are going to go down with that. So really, if you want to optimize your assault rifle performance with the assault class, my strong recommendation would be to take the ASFAL H in CQC situations, in short range situations, and situations up to 60 meters. But if you start having to engage past 60 meters, I would strongly recommend switching to the M28. The ASFAL is not superior to the M28 in any way. It's just very different. And in some cases, like I said, in long-range encounters, that damage per bullet, where in long-range encounters past 60 meters, especially going up to 100, 130, and 130 is rare, but say 80 to 100 meters, ROF, that is rate of fire, is going to be fairly irrelevant, because at that range, you're not going to be able to go, unless you're maybe MIC-H, full auto and just annihilate the enemy. You're going to be doing burst shots or semi-automatic shots, several shots, and that's where damage per bullet comes in handy, and that's what the M28 is the king of. Those are my thoughts on those two rifles. Would I recommend you actually spending the money on the Asphalt? I'd say so, because for CQC and for medium to short range encounters, it is the best assault rifle, in my opinion. That said, it needs a boost. I mean, look at the stats, are just, if you compare them side by side, left, right, completely different. A little more accurate, a little less control. Huge difference in fire rate, huge difference in damage per shot. Which is better? Neither. They're really both situational. I would swing with both. Really, really great assault rifles. But this still needs a boost. This needs a damage boost. Boost up to 44 or 43 or for 45 even. You could really make it a very nice assault rifle. Okay, next weapon. Shotguns. I used to like shotguns a lot. I still do. This, on the surface, this Pentagon H, appears to be a very, very nice shotgun. All right, I mean, look at the damage. One shot everything. Does 200, if you with a long barrel, 240 damage. And that can, with Magnum, of course, it's gonna, even at decent ranges, for a shotgun, that's a decent range, right? You can KO everything. So, you know, if you're one-on-one and running up against a character, an enemy, it doesn't matter if it's assault or support or recon, you will KO that enemy. There's, I mean, 240 with Magnum, there's nothing with it when you get all the pellets in that's going to survive that. The problem, based on my playtesting and actual matches today with this weapon, is it's really simple. It's the fire rate. If you take a long barrel for 240, you will have a fire rate of 110, which is slow. Let's say you somehow, for whatever reason, mess this shot up. Okay, I didn't mess that up, but... Or you're, you know, at longer range. Okay, it's still killing. Like I said, it's pretty good, but this is not going to... Right. So, you get that shot off. Presumably, you're in a CQC situation where, for whatever reason, the pellets did not land on the enemy. That enemy will probably have an automatic weapon. You're dead. More importantly, with the Pentagon H, if you have to deal with multiple enemies, you're dead. I mean, yeah, kill this guy. His buddy sees you. I mean, look at the fire rate. 1, and I didn't even kill him because I missed some of the pellets, and that can happen all the time in a fight. So while I like this, I mean, could you modify this? I mean, I've just been swinging with the you could use the medium barrel. It's significantly worse accuracy, but some, you know, better fire rate. But even so, the fire rate isn't all that great. And, you know, you could pull it all the way down to a short barrel, and then you have a 190 fire rate for 216. And, you know, okay. But to be perfectly honest, if I had to choose between the Pentagon H and the good old Cause SD Jungle, I'm probably going to be using this. Why? 224 fire rate, 192 damage. This is just a better shotgun overall. It's just as accurate as the Pentagon with a long barrel, and that fire rate. This allows you to take down multiple enemies at once. Well, up to, I mean, obviously, if there are too many, but 2, no problem. I mean, you see this guy, you run gun, and you just keep on firing, even if you miss a couple of shots, no problem, fully automatic. If you're going to use a shotgun, I would recommend this over the Pentagon H. Unless you're a shotgun enthusiast, I probably would say don't waste your money on getting the Pentagon H. Unlike the Asphalt, which I think has a legitimate place in the arsenal of the Assault Trooper for close range, CQC close range and medium range combat, shotguns are by their very nature CQC weapons, short range weapons. And in this situation, you're going to want rate of fire over damage, because 192 is still good. And with Magnum, you can still KO quite a lot with one shot. You know, slap on the Magnum, dead, etc. So stick with the Cause. SD version, important SD version, because it has a lot of bonuses both to damage and rate of fire. And there you go. The pistol, actually, I haven't bought the pistol yet, and that's kind of funny. I should do that now, I guess. Going to buy the magic pistol, which I think is just not really all that much better than the Desert Eagle, but let's test it out here. I did play around within firing range. So you get that nice rate of fire. You get a couple of more shots. I still would stick with the Desert Eagle for more armor piercing. The damage is slightly higher. Well, I mean, they're comparable. I think it's just up to you. You want to use this one, you want to use whatever. It's completely up to you. So those are my thoughts. Unless you're a shotgun enthusiast, because of the slow rate of fire and the issues that arise due to the slow rate of fire in CQC situations, either with missed shots on single enemies or multiple enemies that you cannot engage simultaneously due to the slow rate of fire, I would stick with the Cause SD Jungle, the JGL. I think it's still available for a limited time, so pick it up if you're into shotguns. Don't bother with the Pentagon unless you just like the feeling of being able to one-shot everything and then dying to some other enemy. Asphalt, once again, very good assault rifle, essential part, I think, of the Assault Troopers' arsenal. CQC, short, medium range. Medium to long range, favor the M28 over it. It's still a beast, and I mean, they're both excellent assault rifles. I think actually both need a boost, or a buff rather, but that's neither here nor there. My suggestions for the buff for the Asphalt have already been made. The M28 would benefit from a little bit more damage to compensate from the lack of fire rate. Okay, on to Recon. I've used every weapon in today's matches to test it all out, so you don't have to. On to Recon. The SRSH. What do we have to say about this? Well, it's a bolt action. It's a high damage bolt action sniper rifle. I'm using the short barrel. Those of you who probably know, people use the short barrel because the short barrel helps a lot with settle time. It has less. That means the sniper rifle has less sway and is easier to deal with setting up shots. I only use this in one match, I admit, but this is kind of a buffed M200 basically, because it's bolt action. And because it's bolt action, it has a large disadvantage. What is the disadvantage? Well, if this were not bolt action and just had a 70 fire rate with a clip as opposed to the bolt structure, you would be able to get off some shots at a decent pace. But because it's bolt action, it doesn't matter that it has a high damage and the 70 rate of fire, because if you do miss a shot and don't kill the enemy, you're still going to be too slow to fire off the next shot usually. So if you're into sniper rifles, and I'm not a great sniper, though I occasionally use them, don't use this. Use the KSVK SD. Seems like an obvious choice. Look at the stats difference. Well, the major difference, of course, is the much, much, much slower rate of fire, relatively speaking. That said, look at the damage, 164. Massive damage, can KO everything 90% of the time. Sometimes you get those weird elbow shots. And you still have the settle time. And you don't have to worry about, if I don't kill him in one shot, because pretty much everything, I missed that one, is going to be dead from one shot with this weapon. It doesn't matter. So meaning, it doesn't matter if you missed your shot or you only inflicted 120 on him, because you're not going to be inflicting 120 damage on the enemy with the KSK SD. He's just going to die. Okay, that was one of those weird elbow shots, or arm shots. So in my personal opinion, as a non-expert sniper, but someone who does occasionally snipe, stick with the KFCK Jungle Edition SD. It is by far a superior sniper rifle because as long as it's bolt action, if it's not a semi-automatic. Now, as I said, if the SRS-H had been a semi-automatic with a slightly higher fire rate, it would have been extremely potent. I mean, look at that 141. Let's say it had an 80 or a 90 fire rate. You could do some serious damage with that thing, but that's not the case. So stick with this, or if you like automatic or semi-automatic sniper rifles, there are other choices. Obviously, the M14. This is also a very good one, although it has a long barrel. I mean, the settle time sucks, but very high fire rate relative to the damage it does. Very good one. Now, on to the SMG. This weapon, of all the weapons released, well, yeah, I think it's the most puzzling. It's the one that least belongs to the category of Tier 9 weapons. And the reason for that is pretty simple. I'll just switch weapons here, and let's do a comparison. So we have the OC-14H. It's got 49 damage with a long barrel. I'll explain my principle, my thing with long barrels. 690 fire rate. Fire rate's not that great. Damage is pretty good for an SMG. Magazine size 40. Total ammo pool of it's got a big ammo pool of 200. And here it is in action. Only 40 shots. SMGs, I tend to use the 21 scope because the dot's easy to see, and I'm not doing long range fighting, so. Crit modifier is pretty good. It's better than the Asphalt, but then again, it also does somewhat more damage, so that's hard to judge. First, let me say the positives about this. I used this in a couple of matches. The positive about this, I think this is the easiest SMG to control. Even without going prone or going to cover, I can still, at relatively 60 meters, without really having severe control issues, do full auto and mow the enemy down. Now, I don't know how many situations you're going to be in with an SMG because it tends to be a CQC weapon as a weapon in the game. But yeah, it does happen. So it's easy to control. It's okay. The accuracy is okay. But I think the control thing is probably its selling point. What are the non-selling points? Well, it's only got 40 shots in the clip. It has a crit modifier of 0. And I'm going to mention that because both the CBJ and the M960 have a 5% bonus in crits. And one important aspect of that is hip firing, which happens very often with SMGs, right? Not this range, but so you have a large ammo pool and it's pretty easy to control. These are the advantages. The damage is, well, not really all that great considering, well, look at this compared to a weapon I like. I like this SMG a lot. I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but you have almost the same fire rate, same damage, but you have an ammo pool of 100. And more importantly, you have the Cobra scope, which I love. 100 shots. Higher crit damage. Well, not really, actually. I was mistaken about that. But you just have more shots. And as I said, when you're hip firing, look at it says 6%, which means you're going to have a higher chance of, when you're hip firing, which happens so often in this game, especially as an SMGer, Recon, you're going to have a native 6% chance of criticals. So that's pretty significant. I've seen many criticals in my time with the CBJ Ghost Future Soldier. This is no longer being sold, unfortunately, but I really like this one. Alternatively, I'll talk about the CBW in a bit. I mean, this is another model, the M960, which is, of course, the Tier 7, still purchasable. And, yeah, I mean, it's got the extra crit bonus, the 5 extra percent. You can hip fire it, and it's pretty deadly hip firing as well. and it has the 100 ammo pool, which is really, really nice. I mean, the advantage, and I'm sure you already know this, of having the 100 ammo pool and SMG it is that, you know, if you scan someone, you know someone's around the corner, you hear footsteps, you can start firing before you even go around the corner and really not have to worry about too much. I mean, I can just... I mean, look what I just did there. That's the advantage. You can't do that with any of those SMG. However, I mean, in terms of just overall, comparing all aspects, I think you can't really beat this, the CPW SD Jungle. Why? Because of the fire rate. I mean, 1031, the highest fire rate in the game. Control's not great, but damage is okay. But, you know, with the fire rate, it just mows things down. I wouldn't quite say this is a Type 95 SD Jungle. We'll talk about that in a second, but I'm much more difficult to control if you're not a fan of recoil than any of the previous ones I've shown you, and especially the OC14, which is the easiest, in my opinion, the easiest SMG to control for recoil. But I mean, this thing just mows guys down. The more limited clip size, but yeah. So with regards to, or alternatively, you could just use the normal CPJ, which is, you know, CPW, which is, you know, good as well. Using the long barrel on this. You can burst fire it, although, what's the point of that? A good weapon. Some intermediary between the the others I've mentioned. In the final analysis, however, would I recommend you buying the OC14H? Absolutely not. I've done it for you, so you don't have to. This is not a superior weapon to even the Tier 6 modified version, the CPJ Future Soldier. I mean, it's barely passable over that. And the CPJ Future Soldier offers the 5% extra critical chance, as well as 100 frickin' rounds in a clip. You can't beat that. The drum barrel. Same goes for the M960, and this can't beat the DPS of either the Mountain Master version of the CPW or the CPW SD Jungle. So, you know, don't, unless you like, it looks cool. It looks super cool. I love the look of the OC14H, but you're not going to use a weapon because it looks cool. That's not going to help you very much. So don't bother getting it unless you just want to blow money for no reason. Finally, going on to support, which has these days become the most popular class in the game. We all know why, or how it became it. It became the most popular class because of the Type 95, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I am holding not the Type 95, but the M960H. So let's have a look at the stats. Everything's set up the way I would normally set it up, using the slither camouflage. It's quite cool. 58 damage with a long barrel, 650 fire rate, a mediocre fire rate, I'd say. Not terrible, but not great by any stretch. Control is pretty good. Accuracy is standard with a long barrel on a light machine gun. They all have that accuracy. Control is the third best control after the starter GI, a light machine gun, and the Type 95. And we'll talk about that in a bit. So testing it out, yeah, I mean, it's a good... I don't know who this guy is talking to me right now. It's a great, it's a good light machine gun. There's one advantage this thing has over all the others, and it's pretty obvious. It has freaking 300 total rounds and 150 clip size. So, I mean, we can just have fun like that. Yeah, just keep on firing. This guy, and then this guy, and this guy. I'm missing all my shots. And one more there, and yeah, I mean, yeah, that's cool. How many situations arise in the game where I actually have to fire off 150 shots in a clip? I'd say not too many. You know, apart from the 150 clip size, this is not, and this is just a buffed Mark 48. There's nothing really exceptional about this. I think overall, it's, you know, it's good, but is this worthy of being tier 9? Absolutely not. This is almost as puzzling as the OC14 H, with regards to why they made this a tier 9 weapon. I mean, yeah, it's a good weapon, but if you're going to use a light machine gun, you're not going to be using that. You're going to be using, well, guess what? Either of these versions of the Type 95. Now, this is still the most OP weapon in the game. A 46 damage, 866 fire rate, 79 control, 79 actually, and 65 control with a bipod. I mean, this thing is, and 60% armor mitigation. The M96H only has 50%. This out DPSs it in almost every situation, and it's got almost the same control level, and it has an actual burst mode, which is useful because it makes it even more accurate. You know, look how stable that is. CQC, you know, you could argue, I think you could do a sliver, a tidbit more CQC damage with the M96 if you build in a short barrel. But it's because of all the other advantages, I would definitely go with the Type 95 SD if you have it. I mean, and everyone does, right? Because it's, you know, it's the best weapon in the game pretty much. There's nothing can beat it. Alternatively, you could go with the normal Type 95, which is awesome too. I mean, I love this thing. This thing is a sniper rifle, an automatic sniper rifle. I mean, it's got 75 control. It's got the burst mode, which just allows those perfect headshots at great ranges. Although I'm missing. There we go. I mean, this thing is so, because the control is so good, even here you can just get nice headshots for the most part at 131 meters. Could you do that with the M960H? Yeah, probably. And of course that would do, I mean, that does 10 more damage. We can, you know, see what that's like at that range. Disadvantage, only has automatic settings. See, I'm tapping the button. There's no semi, and there is no burst mode. Now let's try at 130. Yeah, I mean, it's not bad, but it's just, why would you use this when you can either use the Type 95 Mod Master, which is a hell of a lot better to control, has 3 different fire modes, a better overall rate of fire. I mean, oh, it has under 50 rounds, I forgot. Yeah. What are your choices as a player? I would not invest in this unless you really. One reason I bought all the weapons is so I can max out my proficiency, my weapon proficiency. I'm probably never going to use the M96 unless they buff it. If they give the M96 4 or 5 points more damage, I will use the weapon. But I don't think they're going to do that. I think they should. If this thing did PKM damage, it would be a worthy weapon to use, keeping all the other stats. Pentagon already talked about. My personal preference, however, is when I roll with support, which I don't do very often because I have all of my support qualifications. You can't buy this, obviously, unless you get gold boxes, mystery boxes, the AK-200M. One of the reasons why I like using it is the very high damage, 61, 650 fire rate, which is okay. Control is accuracy, but it's got all the bursts, it's got all the fire modes, burst, and I'm actually can't do this. I'm in the middle of my little review here, and as you know, they buffed the 200, the AK series. You can see the headshot damage there at 106. I mean, you slap in some Magnum with a burst mode at short to medium range, and you know, it's just 128, 194 headshot damage. 194 headshot damage. Now, one disadvantage, of course, of the AK-200 is got enormous recoil, even with the control rating. You know, it's inherent in the weapon. and 194 headshot. And it has a lot of horizontal recoil too. But, I mean, this is the real advantage. I mean, look at those headshots. That's the real advantage of this weapon. And, of course, this carries over into CQC. Headshots, actually, are quite easy to pull off in CQC. In the heat of the moment, you might forget to implement them. But, see, at that 130, the weapon begins to crumble a little bit, although I was able to do some stuff there. But in CQC, of course, you know, heading... Boom, dead. Oh, you wouldn't. 195. It's a body shot, but you know, you get that headshot and done. If you have this weapon, use it. It's really, really good, and it's a hell of a lot more unique than the stupid Type 95. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry uses it. Not really my cup of tea. But since that's not readily available, don't bother with the M96H when there's the Type 95 and the Type 95 SD. Okay, that is my summary, and once again I'll reiterate my position that all of these weapons need a buff in my humble opinion. Some of the weapons, such as the OC-14 and the M96, I don't even know why they're tier 9 weapons, because they're inferior in not every way, but in most ways to other tiers that come before it, like the Type 95 or the Special Edition. The Asphal needs a little bit of a damage buff. The OC-14 needs a massive damage per bullet buff. This needs damage. It's mostly damage. They just need more damage to balance it out, and I think that's easily done. The sniper rifle, there's nothing you can do about it. It's bolt action. So, all right. Now, my prognosis is that they'll probably release in special editions because they want to make more money, and special editions always sell. And if there is an SV version of this that does more damage or has better control or whatever, I might consider getting it. Likewise with the OCT, I would love to have an SV version of the Asphal. You know, maybe more damage, maybe slightly higher fire rate, more control, more accuracy, whatever. That'd be interesting. I would love to see an SV version of the M28, higher damage, more control, more accuracy. A tan version, they tend to have higher damage, whatever. These are things I would look forward to. I don't really know. I didn't mention, by the way, this weapon. I don't think you really need to bother with the M28C Jungle because now we have the Asphal. This was a good, or is a good, CQC assault rifle, but So, let's hope whatever special editions come out are actually worthy. The Mod Masters, they all need buffs to varying degrees. Of all the new Tier 9 weapons, the Asphal is the best. The worst is the submachine gun. No, sorry, the sniper rifle is the worst. Then the submachine gun. Then the strange light machine gun, which just is inferior to the Type 95 in almost every way. That was a bit of a long review, but I'm a guy who likes details, and I try to explain things thoroughly, so I hope that's appreciated, and I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you found it helpful. For you, either in purchasing these weapons or not, I hope I've helped you make a good and wise decision. Everyone take care, and see you perhaps the next time. Bye-bye.